All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. My name is Robin. I work as a customer success manager here at Omnitas. And today, as the webinar is saying, we are going to go and take a deeper look at the connect column, as well as a little bit on the mirrors that are the package, including with the connect column. So you should be able to see in front of us here, I have set up board number 1, 2, and 3. Nothing special, just out of the box as soon as we create a new board. So very first thing, where do we find the connect column? Which essentially usually should be here at super useful. Of course, you can find it if it's not there by simply going into the library and find the connect boards column here. We will add that, and then it will give us the option to select boards. And first, we are going to connect with board 2 and create a two-way connection in order for it to actually see information from both sides. And we will also add a mirror column here. And as soon as we do that, the mirror will show us the option of what we can actually mirror, but soon more about that. So why would we like to have a connection in the first place? So if you have ever run into the issue, for example, of you need some information from one board in another board, instead of having to administrate by simply copying and pasting between each other, jumping to boards back and forth, specifically use case if you are a project manager and you want to have an update on a project that is currently happening in a different board because it's a different team or a different department. This is the way to create a relation between these boards. And simply by setting this up in a two-way connection, we have also gotten the connection in the other board here. Now, we are going to change the name here just to linked boards. And it's very simple. So the first step here would be that we can see the items in board number 2 here. And we will add item number 1 because we want number 1 and number 1 to be connected to each other. And we can see as well in board number 2 that they have connected here as well. Perfect. So the connection itself doesn't really provide us with much more than you see the relation. There is where the mirror comes in. So currently, as we actually added before, is in the settings here, we can decide any information from board number 2 that we actually want to see. So whatever that would be a status or the actual person in charge or the date or whatever it may be, let's go with status for now. So not only can we see the information, we can actually interact with it as well. So currently it doesn't have a status. We can set it to working on it. That will also change the status inside of the board here. So not only can we actually visualize information from different boards, we can also interact with it from another board. So it gives the option to be more collaborative between teams. It also helps in general, as previously mentioned, being a little bit more visualizing from what is currently happening in another board. So what more can we do? So let's say that we actually are having this board number 2 as some sort of budgeting, or maybe just in general, we want information regarding numbers. So we're going to add a numbers column, and we're just going to add a number here, 1, 2, 3, currency, if it's hours. For now, let's go with that. And of course, we can either decide on having the information in this mirror, but of course, we can also add more mirrors. And in this mirror, we are going to add the actual numbers column. So not only do we have a relation to the actual item, so we can see who is connected to what, we can actually see the numbers and the status. And of course, we should maybe change these names as well. Project. All right. So now we have also the visuals of actual budget. Can we do something more? Yes. Let's say that we actually want to make a formula from these numbers. So we're going to add a formula, and we're also going to add our own numbers column here. So this will be actuals. And the actuals currently, let's say we have reported 80. All right. So now we have the budgeted from the different board, and we have the actuals that we are currently reported, for example. So in the formula column here, we will simply take the budgeted, which comes from the other board, which we can see here is the mirror column. And let's just make a very simple, because I'm bad with math, something like this. All right. So now we can also bring information and interacting with it, and also further using it for other purposes, such as a formula column. So now we can also have budgeted from other boards. It could be the projects. It could be that we have some sort of reporting. It could be whatever it may be now. But the specifics here, we can further utilizing this information even more between these boards by simply having a connect column. So now we have created the actual connection between one board. So the next step here would be take it even further, which is utilizing some sort of automation. So let's simply go and create an automation that would make it a lot easier in terms of a lot of things. But we will start with, let's say we have a status, and as soon as it gets to working on it, we are going to create an item in the other board, and we are going to connect them with each other. So first we decide on the actual board we want it to connect to. And of course, we are going to connect with the current one that we have here. And we're going to link those boards. And the information we want to create with here, well, of course, depending on a little bit on what we want, but it could be, for example, that we want to send over information when we create a new item from this board, such as budget. Maybe we have a date that is supposed to be the deadline, status, whatever it may be. But for now, let's go with that. All right, our first automation here. So let's say that we're going to use this board as a little bit of a task management. So we're going to have task 1 here. And as soon as that is created, we are going to send it to the other board. So now we are creating through the automation the actual item in the other board and connecting it for us directly in here. So we can also see here we have task 1 created and connected to the board number 1. So we can also utilize the automation to also help us, for example, when we are going to create a project, a task, assigning something, to do it completely automated by simply having a trigger of a status. So it could be that we are currently planning something, and as soon as we're going live into action, we utilize the automation by a status to create the item in the other board and connect it for us automatically. So now we have started with a couple of different options here, what we can actually do. But let's say we take it even a step further than that. Let's say we also want to connect, as we can see previously here, board number 3. So we simply go into our connect here. We're going to connect that. So the first thing we will see here when we're going to connect now manually, we will have the option of board number 2, and we will have the option of board number 3. And as we can see in board 3 as well, the connect has been connected, and we have a relation between these now. So now when we want to connect these, let's say that use case would be that we are going to still use when we actually assign something such as a task 1, it's going to be created in a different board, but we want to make sure that it is in the correct board. So we are going to add a status, and we are going to utilize this for team A and team B. And this is going to be our team status trigger. So now we will understand if this is going to team A or team B, and we can then follow up on that. So the next step here would be to, of course, set up an automation. Now we are not going to use this for current purposes because we're having a new one. So when status changes to team, and this is going to be team A, we are creating the same purpose that we did previously. The only difference here is that we can now utilize this status to assign it to different boards. Linked column, and of course we are using these. Just removing that and that. There we go. And we can also at the same time just duplicate this, but we add board number 3. connect it with this one and connect it this one and change the status to team B. All right. So now, instead of having the actual status working on it, assigning this, we will utilize this is going to team A and this is going to team B. It will create in the separate ones, in the separate boards, and we still have them in the same connect column. We had a connect here previously, and if you haven't seen that before as well, we can have several connects in the to one connected item. But of course, this one is connected to task 1 in board 1 and 3 here. So now we have set up so we can utilize the connect column in several different ways between several different boards. We can see the different information if depending on what we're going for here, but it could be actuals. We have budgets, we can see status, and then from that information we can utilize this to example a formula column. Now, of course, this view starts to get a little bit of too much clutter, so we can utilize this to filter here to let's actually hide a couple of columns. We don't always need to actually see the link columns in case that we are only going to use it for actually seeing the information such as budget and such here. We maybe actually don't want to see these as well. Hide these. So, of course, we can also hide the actual connect column. It may not always be useful, but it can always be nice to have it in case that relation is needing to see what kind of project we're working on from the other board or whatever it may be. But of course, we can utilize to hide that as well. Now, we have set up so far the connection between board 2 and board 3 all the way to board 1. What if we add even further to this? So we have now created so that the items is automatically created in the other boards and connected. But what if we, for some reason, have an item that would be a duplicate, such as this? We have task 1 and then we have task 1 again. We maybe want to avoid that. So let's set up a use case where this would actually be a contact board, for example. So we will simply add, email. So the reason why we would add email, for example, a contact, is we need some sort of a specific ID. So for example, a name can of course be duplicates. So we will decide on the email here. And why would we, or how would we set up this automation? So we're going to use this called match automation, which we've only been able to find an automation center for right now. And we're going to have a couple of few here, but we are going for when column changes, connect the item where this column matches another column in another board by this logic. So we are going for the email. When the email changes, then we are going to connect the email with the column in, of course, we're first going to assign the board. And let's say that name for now is going to be the actual email contact information, and we're going to link them up. We add them to the board. So what this will then provide us is more or less when we actually decide on a name, first of all, we need to have the contact for this to be possible. So let's simply add that's going to be what we're going to match against. And the actual match is going to happen right here. As soon as this column changes, this counts as a change. That will connect that column right here. All right, going forward, again, we have set up a connect column with two different boards. The reason why, it could be several reasons, but the first one is to create a relation to make information more transparent between, for example, teams or departments. We can then utilize the information that we provide to aggregate towards the other boards, such as budget or a status to actually see progress. We can then use the information such as the budget in further, such as a formula column. We can then, of course, have more than one connect in the connect column to several different boards. And we can then automate these to actually set up so it's creating certain things automatically. Now, all of these can be possible for many different use cases. It could be a sales pipeline that you want to connect a contact or a company towards a specific lead. It could be that we have a project board with a project overview connecting to certain tasks in other boards to see the progress of the entire project. It could be that we have a more towards CRM system where it's more or less going to be focused on what's the clients, what's the current leads here, what is the current contact for that specific company, and so on and so on. And all of these are going to help you in terms of actually making, first of all, a connection and relation to have the separated in form of a client registry or maybe a company registry. Previously, it's a sales, it can be leads, and then we can create a sales pipeline. All of these different use cases can utilize the actual connect in several ways that would be super helpful, and specifically when we use the automations to elevate this even further so that we can actually make sure that the administration is significantly decreased and help us make things much more efficient. Well, thank you very much for watching this today. It's a very short session, and I hope you got something very good out of this. Please try it, and see you next time.